name is Kimberly Kolakowski, and I'm Melissa, and we're with Family Connections. We're a local, we're kind of in the Millard area, centrally located with Ralston, Millard, and Papillion, La Vista. I'm a Papio graduate myself. We're a therapy and counseling clinic. And we came in to kind of talk to you guys today, do a little presentation on setting the limits. So we've got a lot to cover, and we're supposed to keep it within time. I can get chatty, so we're going to roll. I want to start a little by getting an idea of who I'm talking to. So if you guys could just raise your hands and let me know how many people here are parents or guardians of junior high age, going into junior high. Okay, and then high school, and a dual over here. She's got both. Okay, so primarily we've got junior high, and then we've got some older teens spattered in. As I said, we're with Family Connections, therapy and counseling. We're talking about setting limits, and when we're talking about setting limits with your teen, we're saying get back to the basics. A lot of times we as tend to get wrapped up in complicated techniques and what do we do, and our teen is getting feisty and having attitude. And if you keep it simple, you're going to have the most success. And when we talk about back to the basics, we're talking about communication, parent-child interaction, being a role model, be proactive and not reactive, set expectations and boundaries and be very clear about it, and then enforce privileges and consequences. And we're going to talk about each of these in greater depth. And we did hand out, does everybody have a handout with a pen to take notes? Because I assure you everything I'm saying is extremely valuable and you will want to write it down word for word. Excellent. All right, so as we move on to communication. Sorry. All right. Communication is very important. And I think as your preteen and teen gets higher and higher in those teenage years, it gets more and more difficult. They start separating away. They don't seem to want to talk to their mom or dad as much. And so it's important for you as the parent to step up and initiate it. Set aside specific days and times for communicating with your teen. Just be there. And sometimes they won't be willing to talk, but just you being a consistent presence in their life, just sitting with them, even if it's in silence, gears them up for later communication. And you'll be surprised by doing that and making yourself available. All of a sudden, your teenage son or daughter is going to pop out with some stuff just out of the blue because they pick the most convenient or inconvenient times to communicate with you. And the car is a huge one. When you're driving in the car with your teen, take the time sometimes to turn the radio down. Turn the radio down. Drive quiet. Maybe ask them how they're doing or how their day is. Take the time to do that. They're not going to do it for you. You have to take that step and initiate it. And then our focus today is the technological stuff. So as you're communicating, be very clear about what your limits and boundaries are for the use of technological tools, like the internet, okay? Be clear about what websites are allowed and what are prohibited. How many here have a teen that has a MySpace or a Facebook page? Okay. How many of you that know your child has that have seen that page recently? Because that is huge. First of all, you should double check if your teen has one of those because they're very good at setting them up. It just takes a quick keystroke to lie about your age to be able to set up a page, and they can do it. You may not even know. You think they might be looking at email or something. And if you allow them to set one up, be consistent about checking it. Make sure that you have their password and check it regularly to see what kind of, they can post pictures, they can make their profile available to other people to see, and you want to be sure that they're not putting too much identifying information like phone numbers and addresses and their age and birth date and stuff, because that can be potentially dangerous. Video games. We know that kids like video games. There's lots of cool stuff out there these days. But set clear boundaries about the use of video games. Be a parent about what you're allowing them. Some of these games that are out there, the Grand Theft Auto and whatnot, are, if you would ever watch your child play it, you may be appalled. There's like heads popping off, and it's really bad. Some of them can be very violent. So take the time to know what your child is buying. If they're buying their own video games, monitor it, and set limits on the amount of time that they're allowed to do it. In fact, setting a limit on video games frees up some more time for communication. And the cell phone usage. Be clear about the boundaries there. Are they allowed to talk on the cell phone while they're driving? Are they allowed to just text? Or what kind of rules and regulations do you have for the cell phone usage as well?